When most learners think about why they are not improving in English, they blame themselves. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe it's too late for me. Maybe English is only for people who live abroad. And with every passing day, this doubt grows heavier. But let me tell you something straight. You are not failing because of who you are. You are failing because of how you are learning. Yes, you heard me right. The reason you feel stuck is not because English is impossible or because your brain is weak. The reason is simple. You are treating English as a subject instead of treating it as a language. Think back to school. What did English mean there? It was a subject like math or science. You memorized grammar rules. You learned the difference between past perfect and present continuous. You filled notebooks. You underlined words. You solved question papers. And if you got good marks, teachers praised you. Wow, you are good at English. But here's the cruel joke. Those marks did not give you fluency. You could score 95 in exams, but when a foreigner said, "Hey, how's it going?" you froze. Suddenly, all the rules in your head vanished like smoke. Why does this happen? Because exams test your memory. Fluency tests your courage. Exams reward correctness. Fluency rewards connection. And in real life, nobody cares how many rules you remember. They care if you can express yourself clearly. Let me give you an example. Imagine you are at the airport and someone asks, "Excuse me, where's the gate for flight A23? Now, your brain starts running grammar checks. Should I say, "The gate is there," or "It's located there," or maybe "You go that way"? And while you're thinking, the person is already gone. That's failure. Not because you didn't know English, but because you were trapped in rules. The truth is, you cannot speak a living language like you solve a math problem. A math problem has one correct answer, but language has thousands of ways to say the same thing. The person didn't care if you said, "Gate is there," or "That's your gate." They just needed help. Communication, not perfection. That's fluency. Now let's compare this with how a child learns. A child never studies grammar books. They don't say, "Oh, I must use the present continuous tense here." They just copy what they hear. They say it wrongly 100 times. They say, "He goes school." Their parents correct them. "No, he goes to school." The child repeats, sometimes right, sometimes wrong. And slowly their tongue learns, their brain adjusts. That is the natural way. But what do adults do? They reverse the process. They try to speak perfectly before they even speak once. They say, "I'll start talking when my grammar is strong." But that day never comes, because grammar alone never gives fluency. Fluency grows only through usage. I once taught a student named Maria. She was brilliant in writing. She could write essays with almost no mistakes, but she refused to speak in class. I asked her why. She whispered, "Sir, if I make a mistake, everyone will laugh." I told her, "Maria, the only difference between you and a fluent speaker is not knowledge, it's courage." So I gave her a small challenge. I said, "Every day you will speak one sentence aloud in class. Just one. I don't care if it's wrong. I don't care if people laugh." The first day, she trembled. The second day, her voice cracked. But by the 10th day, she was laughing at her own mistakes. That was the moment she began her journey to fluency. So if you are failing today, maybe it's not because you don't know enough. Maybe it's because you don't dare enough. Let me explain another reason people fail. They focus on results instead of systems. You keep telling yourself, I want to be fluent in English. That's your goal. But what's your system? What do you actually do daily? Do you read one page of an English book? Do you talk to yourself in the mirror? Do you listen to a podcast while walking? If not, then you don't have a system, you just have a dream. And dreams without systems always lead to failure. James Clear, in Atomic Habits, says something powerful. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. In other words, fluency is not about what you want. It's about what you repeat. Think of brushing your teeth. You don't brush for 2 hours on Sunday and skip the rest of the week. You brush for 2 minutes every day. That's why your teeth are clean. Learning English is the same. If you study for 5 hours once a month, you will fail. But if you study for 10 minutes daily, you will succeed. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Here's a real-life picture. Imagine 2 learners, Alex and John. Alex studies English 1 hour every Sunday. John studies English 10 minutes every day. After 3 months, Alex has studied about 12 hours. John has studied 15 hours. But here's the difference. Alex forgets most of what he studied by the next Sunday. John remembers everything because he repeats it daily. John becomes fluent. Alex stays stuck. That's the power of consistency. Now let's connect this to your own life. How many times have you said, "From tomorrow, I will give 1 hour to English daily," and then you gave up after 3 days? Why? Because you set the bar too high. You made English a burden instead of a habit. You failed not because you are weak, but because your system was unrealistic. Start small. Speak 1 sentence today. Write 2 lines tomorrow. Listen for 3 minutes the next day. These are atomic habits, and they are the real secret behind fluency. Another hidden reason people fail is because they treat English as separate from their real life. They think English practice happens only with books and teachers. But real fluency happens when you merge English into your daily life. When you describe your breakfast in English. When you think about your plans in English. When you argue with yourself in English. If you wait for a classroom, you will fail. If you make life your classroom, you will succeed. Think about this. You are watching a movie. Normally, you just enjoy it. But if you decide, I will repeat 1 line from every scene, suddenly the movie becomes your teacher. You are cooking dinner. Normally, you just cook. But if you decide, I will narrate the steps in English, suddenly your kitchen becomes your classroom. You are walking on the street. Normally, you just walk. But if you decide, I will name everything I see in English, suddenly the world becomes your vocabulary book. This is living the language. And this is how fluency grows. So why are you failing? Not because you lack time, but because you waste time. Not because you lack knowledge, but because you don't use the knowledge. Not because you lack opportunity, but because you don't create opportunity. Let me leave you with this story. A man once asked a wise teacher, "How long will it take me to become fluent in English?" The teacher replied, "It will take 1 year if you practice daily. It will take 5 years if you practice only when you feel like it." The man said, "Then I will choose the 1 year path." The teacher smiled and said, "Good. Then start today." That is my message for you. If you want fluency, stop blaming yourself. Stop saying, "I'm failing." Instead, say, "I'm learning what doesn't work, and now I will change my system." Because the truth is this: fluency is not about talent, age, or luck. Fluency is about small daily actions repeated with courage. Have you ever asked yourself why, even after years of trying, your English still feels weak? Why you can read a little, write a little, but when it's time to speak, your mind goes blank? If you've been there, you're not alone. Millions of learners across the world face the same struggle. But here's the truth. You are not failing because English is too hard. You are failing because of the traps you keep falling into without realizing it. These traps are invisible cages. They keep you stuck, repeating the same mistakes again and again. The first trap is inconsistency. Let's be honest. How many times have you started strong? You downloaded new apps, bought grammar books, promised yourself, "From today, I'll study for 1 hour daily." And what happened? For 3 days, you were excited. For 1 week, you managed. But then life got busy, work piled up, and you stopped. 1 missed day became 2, 2 became 10, and soon English disappeared from your life again. This is the cycle of inconsistency. It kills more dreams than lack of intelligence ever will. Think of learning English like watering a plant. If you water it once for 3 hours and then forget it for a month, will the plant grow? No, it will die. But if you water it a little every day, it will flourish. Your English is that plant. Inconsistency dries it out. And here's the cruel part. Every time you stop, you don't just pause progress, you slide backwards. Your brain forgets, your tongue stiffens, and you lose confidence. Then, when you restart, it feels even harder. That's why many learners feel like they're running in circles. Now, the second trap is fear of judgment. This is perhaps the biggest prison for learners. You understand English, you know words, you even form sentences in your mind. But when it's time to speak, your lips stay sealed. Why? Because of fear. Fear that people will laugh. Fear that they will notice your mistakes. Fear that you'll sound stupid. And this fear makes you silent. But silence is the biggest enemy of fluency. Nobody in the history of learning has become fluent by staying quiet. Let me tell you a story. There was a boy named Daniel in Brazil. He studied English for years but never spoke. In class, he always stayed silent, even when he knew the answer. One day, his teacher gave him a challenge. You must say at least one sentence every day in class. At first, Daniel was terrified. His voice shook, his classmates smiled at his mistakes. But slowly, something surprising happened. People didn't laugh anymore. Instead, they encouraged him. They respected his courage. In 6 months, Daniel went from silent to confident. What changed? Not his grammar, not his vocabulary, his courage. He stopped letting fear of judgment control his life. You need to hear this. People don't care about your mistakes as much as you think. Yes, they may notice, but they move on. The only one replaying your mistakes is you, and as long as you keep replaying them, you remain stuck. The third trap is distraction. Today, we live in a world of endless noise, social media notifications, endless scrolling, binge-watching videos in your native language. Hours disappear daily, and at the end you say, "I had no time for English." But the truth is, you had time. You just gave it away. Ask yourself honestly, how many hours did you spend scrolling this week? And how many minutes did you spend practicing English? If the numbers don't match your dream, then distraction is your silent thief. Here's a painful truth. Fluency is not built in dreams. It is built in discipline. And discipline is about saying no. No to endless scrolling. No to wasting hours. No to habits that steal your future. If you want English to become your strength, you must protect your attention. Now, the fourth trap is the perfection trap. This is when you believe, I'll start speaking when I'm ready. I'll speak when my grammar is perfect. I'll practice when my accent is polished. But guess what? That day never comes. Perfection is an illusion. It's like chasing the horizon. The closer you think you are, the further it moves. Many learners spend years waiting for the right moment and end up waiting forever. The only way to learn is to start messy. Start with mistakes. Start broken. Start afraid. Fluency grows not from perfection, but from practice. Think of a baby learning to walk. Do they wait until they are sure they'll never fall? No. They fall dozens of times. They stumble, they cry, they get up. And one day, they walk. That's the path of fluency. You cannot walk without falling. You cannot speak without mistakes. If you avoid mistakes, you avoid growth. The fifth trap is lack of real practice. Many learners spend hours reading rules, memorizing vocabulary, filling exercise books. But when it's time to speak, nothing comes out. Why? Because they are practicing for exams, not for life. Remember this. English is not just something you learn, it's something you use. Reading alone won't make you fluent. Writing alone won't make you fluent. You must speak. You must listen. You must live in the language. One of my students, Anna, once told me she studied English for 10 years but still couldn't speak. When I asked her why, she admitted she never actually practiced speaking. She only studied textbooks. I gave her a challenge. For 1 week, she must talk to herself in English daily for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. She was shocked at how difficult it felt at first. But after 1 week, she said something life-changing. I finally feel English leaving the paper and entering my life. That's the shift you need. And the final trap is giving up too soon. Fluency is like fitness. You don't go to the gym once and expect muscles. You don't eat healthy for 1 week and expect to lose weight. Progress is slow at first. That's why many people quit. They say, I practiced for 1 month, but nothing changed. But here's the truth. The first phase of progress is invisible. You are growing roots, not fruits. Just like a seed stays underground before sprouting, your efforts are building a foundation. Quit too early, and you never see the results. Stay long enough, and suddenly, fluency blooms. I love what James Clear says in Atomic Habits. Complaining about not achieving success after working hard is like complaining about an ice cube not melting when you've just started heating it. At 31 degrees C, the ice looks unchanged. At 32 degrees C, still nothing. At 33 degrees C, nothing. But at 34 degrees C, boom, it melts. The breakthrough comes suddenly, after consistent effort. Your English is the same. You may see nothing for weeks. Then one day, without warning, you realize, wow, I just had a whole conversation in English without translating. That's your ice cube melting. So let me ask you, which trap is holding you back right now? Is it inconsistency? Fear of judgment? Distraction? Perfectionism? Lack of practice? Or giving up too soon? Be honest with yourself, because the first step to breaking free is recognizing your prison. Here's the good news. Every trap has a key. The key to inconsistency is small daily habits. The key to fear is courage. The key to distraction is focus. The key to perfectionism is action. The key to lack of practice is real speaking. The key to giving up is patience. You don't need to be perfect to break free. You just need to take one small action today. So if you've been failing, don't despair. You're not alone. These traps catch almost everyone. But now you see them clearly. And when you see a trap, you can avoid it. That is the beginning of transformation. In the next part, we'll go deeper. We'll talk about how to finally break through, how to design a system that guarantees fluency, and how to turn English from your fear into your identity. That's where the real change begins. Part 3. How to finally break through. Expanded script. 1650 Bal's words. You've seen why you're stuck. You've recognized the traps. Now comes the most important part. How do you finally break through? How do you move from years of frustration to finally speaking English fluently, naturally, and confidently? Here's the truth. Breakthroughs don't come from magic. They don't come from waiting. They don't come from perfect conditions. Breakthroughs come from systems, identity, and consistency. When you build the right system, when you shift your identity, and when you show up daily, you stop failing and start transforming. Step 1. Build a system, not a wish. Most learners make the same mistake. They set goals, but they don't build systems. They say, I want to be fluent. But that's a dream, not a system. A system answers, what do I do every day? At what time? In what way? For example, instead of saying, I will practice English daily, a system says, at 8:30 p.m., I will listen to a 10-minute English podcast while sitting at my desk. That's specific, that's repeatable, that's a system. James Clear calls this implementation intention in Atomic Habits. The idea is simple. Vague goals fail. specific systems succeed. Fluency is not built on wishes, it's built on routines. Think of an athlete. They don't just dream of winning a medal. They follow a training plan. They know what time to wake up, how many laps to run, what food to eat. That plan makes their dream inevitable. If you want English fluency, you need your training plan too. Not complicated, but consistent. Step 2. Change your identity. A secret few talk about. True behavior change is identity change. Most people focus on results. They say, I want to speak fluently. But the real question is, who do you believe you are? If you see yourself as just a learner, you'll always hesitate. But if you start saying, I am an English speaker, everything shifts. Suddenly, practicing English is no longer a chore. It's who you are. Think about two people trying to quit smoking. One says, no thanks, I'm trying to quit. The other says, no thanks, I'm not a smoker. Same action, different identity. The second person doesn't fight temptation because their identity has already changed. Do the same with English. Don't say, I'm learning English. Say, I'm an English speaker who is improving daily. When you adopt that identity, every action you take, every sentence you speak, every word you learn is a vote for your new self. And the more votes you cast, the stronger your identity becomes. Step 3. Create an English environment. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes your behavior. If your world is full of your native language, English will always feel like an outsider. But if you surround yourself with English, fluency becomes natural. Practical ways: change your phone language to English. Follow English pages on social media. Put English sticky notes on objects in your home. Watch shows in English with subtitles. Listen to English songs and copy the lyrics. One student of mine, Lena from Spain, did this for 6 months. She didn't move abroad. She didn't join expensive classes. She just built an English environment at home. Today, she works as a tour guide, confidently speaking with travelers every day. Why? Because her world became English. Step 4. Speak before you're ready. This is the hardest step, but also the most important. Stop waiting for perfection. Stop telling yourself, I'll speak when my grammar is good enough. That day never comes. You learn to swim by swimming. You learn to speak by speaking. Start with self-talk. Describe your actions. I am making coffee. I am writing notes. Then graduate to mirror practice. Tell your reflection how your day went. Next, find a practice partner online or in person. Even 5 minutes of broken conversation is better than silent perfection. Remember, mistakes are not proof of failure. They are proof of progress. Every fluent speaker you admire once made the same mistakes. The difference? They didn't stop. Step 5. Track your progress. What gets measured gets improved. Use a notebook, calendar, or app to track your daily practice. Each tick mark is proof that you are showing up. Over time, those marks become chains, and you won't want to break them. One learner told me, I practiced for 45 days without missing once. On day 46, I felt sick, but I still spoke one sentence because I didn't want to break the chain. That's the power of tracking. It turns practice into momentum. Here's a warning. The early stages of progress feel invisible. You practice for weeks, but still hesitate. You read daily, but still forget words. This is called the Valley of Disappointment. Most people quit here. They say, "I'm failing, nothing is changing." But in reality, change is happening beneath the surface. Think of heating an ice cube. At 31 degrees, nothing happens. At 32 degrees, nothing. At 33 degrees C, still nothing. But at 34 degrees C, suddenly, it melts. Was it that last degree that made the difference? No. It was the accumulation of heat. The same is true for your English. Don't quit at 32 degrees C. Stay long enough to reach 34 degrees. Your breakthrough will come, but only if you persist. Step 7. Find purpose in your English. Fluency isn't just about words. It's about why those words matter to you. If your only goal is, "I want to be fluent," you'll burn out. But if your goal is, "I want to connect with people, get a better job, travel freely, or inspire my children," then English becomes meaningful. Purpose gives power. A man in Japan once told me, "I don't learn English for me. I learn it for my daughter. I want to help her with homework and open doors for her future." That purpose gave him unstoppable energy. So ask yourself, why do you want fluency? Write it down. Let it guide you when you feel tired. The final push, from student to speaker. So, how do you finally break through? Build small, repeatable systems. Shift your identity to, "I am an English speaker." 3. Surround yourself with English daily. Speak before you're ready. 5. Track your progress. Stay patient during the valley of disappointment. Anchor your fluency to a bigger purpose. Follow this, and failure will turn into progress. I want to leave you with a challenge. For the next 7 days, choose one simple English habit. Maybe it's speaking one sentence aloud. Maybe it's listening to a 5-minute podcast. Maybe it's writing 2 lines in your notebook. Choose something so small you cannot fail. Do it every day. Track it, and watch what happens. Come back here and comment your progress. Write, "Day 1, done." Then reply to your own comment with Day 2, done, and so on. Let this community become your accountability partner. And if you're still watching, let me say this. Thank you. Thank you for giving me your time and your trust. Remember, I'm not just here as a teacher. I'm here as a friend, a mentor, maybe even like a brother or parent figure who truly wants you to succeed. So if you're serious about fluency, hit subscribe now. Not for me, but for yourself. Because you deserve to live with confidence. You deserve to stop failing and start speaking. And together,